Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mississippi Advisory Commission on Marine Resources for April 21st. I'd like to ask Commissioner McClendon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you, Commissioner. Director, would you like to lead us in a prayer, please?
Yeah, I don't know if this thing's on or not. All right, yeah, let's go to the Lord, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to have this commission. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to have a Department of Marine Resources, Lord. And we just thank you that you give us the ability to do things, and we hope that we take your will and not ours to do it your way and not ours. Thank you, Lord. We ask this in Jesus Christ's name.
Amen. And I believe is Commissioner Osborne linked in?
Yeah, he's in Guam or somewhere.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on down to the approval of the minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from March 17th? Do we have any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving down to the approval of the agenda. Do we have any questions on the agenda for today? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, Director.
Okay, am I on again? All right. Let me figure out where I'm at here, this thing. First off, let's see, we got contracts and employment. Okay, Elizabeth Kennard, she was working with us as the assistant in licensing, has moved up to the takeover because Debbie is retiring. And so great to have her there, and she's doing a great job. That anything else? I think that's it. Okay. All right, let's see. Legislative update. Well, we got, our bills are passed. The bill to be able to allow us to pay reserve officers in a time that we would need them, like holidays and stuff like that. That passed, and that was great. That's a good thing for us to have. We also have a bill that for the seafood labeling, and it is passed, and the seafood labeling bill is good. I've met since that, and we're putting out some information on it. Basically, the seafood labeling just says that what we changed on it was a couple of things, and instead of having to put everywhere, like if you had speckled trout, then instead of putting speckled trout imported or domestic, you could put it in the front on a caption in the front of your menu, so people would be able to say that they could change that a little bit more easier, and it could be done that way. And also there's another thing to be able to, they could put the country of origin. So if you had Argentine red, then you wanted to put that on there, you could put Argentine red instead of putting imported. So that's something that some of the delicacies that there's some fish that are very, very expensive and valuable for as the menu. And they want to put that on there, not just put import, and they want to put something on it. So we're going to be able to do that also. The other thing is the COOL Act, and that's basically the labeling from origin, and that's coming more for your grocery stores and all. And, we can't tell them and wherever they're shipping it from to put Mississippi, put the label on there, import or domestic, and, but they put the country of origin. And we'll follow those rules, and that helps the grocery stores and everything. Now, if a grocery store has a fresh market, they still have to follow the same rules and label it as either imported, domestic, or something on it, and they have to put it as the same size. But there's a new law in Washington right now that Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith has put out to be able to take that COOL Act and change it to the point to where whenever they put the point of origin on it, that is the same size and font as the same thing as your advertising, the same thing that we do. So you can't just put, big letters shrimp and little bitty letters import. You got to put it out there to where it makes it read. Any questions on that one? The other one is the law that we have for the Marine Patrol that have to have probable cause, and I don't think we have to worry about that. I think our Marine Patrol officers work on probable cause only way, and I don't think that's going to change a whole lot with what we do. I think our operation will continue to do the same it's been doing, and you know, I guess the only thing it would alleviate is if they just wanted to stop and do a safety check. But you know, that's about the most of it, Chief. That's pretty close, and so we're there. I'm missing one other one. Which one is it, Patrick? Huh? All right, it's one other bill, but I'm missing, but I can't think of what it is. Because we had 4. Anyway, I'll figure it out. But it wasn't. It was something administrative. I think I'm more than sure on that. Okay. Anything else on the legislature? All right. I go Mesa. This last year, we received $10 million that we put out in November, December time frame, and then we received another $59,313,205 in April that we were able to distribute. And so that's $69 million worth of Go Mesas in the last year that we've been able to put out. And so that's pretty good. That's all been approved by the governor and approved by the legislature. So that's a good deal. And in our titlings, we received a little over $12.3 million to be able to do that. That's up from last year because we didn't have a title until last year as far as any public access. So it was good there. So everything's working great. Any questions on those? To be able to put $70 million in the Gulf Coast in a year is pretty good. And that's what we've been able to go out and be able to do. And a lot of good work going on there. All right, the Bolton building. Right now, the last I got from it was that they're going to be able to open up the first floor is open now. The second floor will be open. Hopefully, their projection is the 1st of June. So we're shooting for that. And if that happens, then we're going to look at it. I've got TJ working on and Patrick and them working on a plan for me to be able to put us all back on the second floor, even though we're jammed up on the second floor, but we could be jammed up in there or either jammed up where we're at. So what's the difference? It's about $18,000, isn't it? But that we'd have to pay every month, and I don't have to pay it. So that's what we're looking at. And it looks like that the third floor will be finished before the second. Hadn't figured that one out yet, but it's going to be about the middle of May. And then the fourth floor is something like end of June, fifth floor July, and sixth floor in August. So everything will be finished hopefully by August in some time. But anyway, we're gonna work it out. We'll have a plan, and we'll be able to get back in there. Hopefully, the agency will be out of the area that we're over by eFitness by sometime in June, first part of middle of June. We'll be out of there, and we'll be back into the building, the Bolton building, and then we'll have our commission meeting there to do things. Any questions? All right, let's see. We got the 2026 World Championship, Redfish World Championships this week. It's this week, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 23 through 25. And it's going to be held, and it's basically being held out of Gulfport there. So got 60 teams, I think, that they're looking at. And so we have 60 teams that are going to be competing. It ought to be something different. We became the title sponsor of this because redfish, the way I looked at it was two things. Number one, we have a lot of redfish. Number two, we're the only state in the Gulf that has a redfish commercial season. So that's pretty good too. And so, why not promote redfish? Why not promote it here? And that's a big thing for us. And so we'll see what happens with it. It's 23 through 25, and we'll see how it turns out. I'm hoping it'll be a big turnout. They're talking several hundred people being involved in it. So let's see what happens there. Any questions?
I'll just say that, this thing starts on really Wednesday, I think, and goes all the way through. So it's not just a day tournament. This is they have the banquet, and I think you guys are doing the fresh Gulf seafood on Wednesday, and it goes all the way through the week. And when Commissioner Daniels first approached me about helping with it, that was a bucket list for me is to have a redfish, weigh in, at Chandelier in Gulfport. And so I appreciate you bringing that to us. And I think it's great that
Do you get a beer when you do?
absolutely. But anyways, it's an all week economic impact to the coast. I think it's a great, great deal, man. I hope they come back again.
Well, and it's not just this week. I mean, a lot of these anglers have been here since last week. I met with a
Fishing,
couple at the end of last week that were already getting in town. So I think it's a big financial draw for the coast.
Well, we hope it is, and it was a way for us to sponsor it, and Charmaine and us worked on it, and we worked on that, and it was something to be able to sponsor this, and I think it's a good sponsorship. We like to sponsor fishing tournaments and things
Yeah.
because that's part of our job.
And there's all over the South here of Southeast, and it's like 120,000. I want to say first place is like $40,000, and that's real money for a fishing tournament here locally. So.
Oh, yeah.
Well, good deal. So we're glad to do that. So if you got any issues or anything, please, just touch base with us. But I think it'll be great. And the weigh-in's going to be Saturday.
Yes, sir. Saturday.
Okay.
So that's going to be a good show, too. They're going to have and correct me if I'm still right on this, it's going to be a parade of boats coming in front of Chandelier Outfitters with a grandstand there. You've all seen the Bassmasters Classic.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of that for the redfish world is what we're going to have right there in
Televised
downtown Gulfport.
and the whole
Oh, yeah.
deal. Yeah. So
Maybe we'll set a state record.
Well, they keep them under a certain length.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to get a gross state record, but it's going to be impressive to see what these guys bring in.
Okay. Good deal. All right. Our commercial online license sale is going out right now. I think we have went out and basically advertised, got a contract, and I signed the paperwork the best I remember of it last week or so. So hopefully in the next few weeks to a month or something, when we'll be able to get that commercial online. And so that way you will be able to not only buy your private license, but your commercial license online. And that'll help a lot of these people. I've heard a lot of conversation out of the people in the past saying, man, we wish that we could get it online. Well, we got it. And Rick and the team, and they all worked hard on that. Excuse me. Thank y'all for that. All right, 2019, 2020 Bonnie Carey, we're still going pretty good with it. I don't think we have anything. I don't see a write-up. No. Right below it. Oh, I got it. Okay. It's got it out of, it's in a different deal here. All right, the Bonnie Carey Fisheries, we've, the commercial license purchasing, it cost us $622,000 to get that done, but we was able to use that fund to do it. So that tells you where we're at. Procurement's underway. 2020, as far as the Bonnie Carey, we have assistance to Mississippi on bottom oyster and shrimp fisheries, and there's little 2 million that we're working on with that. And we got 255 shrimp and oyster fishermen have been issued direct payments for round one for a total of 1.7 million, and an additional 44 agreements have been executed for round two, and closed on April 27th. Is when it close. Oh, that's something else. That's entirely different. I got to get what Crystal's on my reading here. But anyway, all right. So that covers it. Any questions on the Bonnie Carey? All right. It says that we're closed April 27th for Confederate. That's right under that one, so I just went straight on through it. All right. Update. Update on Gulf Council. We had a great Gulf Council last week, and it was, it got a lot of good things. We're working on some stuff. The 5 state directors that we're going to be meeting sometimes in the first part of next month. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is the red snapper allocation. We have X amount of allocation, and it's been over the last 2 years, we have not caught anywhere close to the allocation in some states, and in states like Mississippi, who are being held back, have been able to catch theirs, and Louisiana is going over and catching theirs. But what we're asking the 5 states to look at, and we want to go back and we want to take the amount. Right now, Mississippi gets 3.55%, and so what we're going to go back and ask them to change Mississippi to about 5%. And if we get 5% or somewhere in that neighborhood, anywhere from 5 to 6%, then that will bring us up to 110 to 135 to 40,000 pounds that we can be able to do, which we'll get the numbers, we'll work it. What we're looking at with that is when we did this in 2017, there was 3.8% that was not used. And that 3.8%, because of Florida being the one who had the most allocation at the time and everybody felt like they got what they needed. And in those time frames, we was getting 160,000 pounds, so we were fine. And, but then with the when they recalibrated, things changed and moved different, and hopefully we'll change that too, and as we'll talk about in a minute. But hopefully we'll change some of that. But the thing about it is that 3.8% was given to them. It's really not part of what should be theirs, and so we're looking at that 3.8%. And that's exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at the 3.8%, and Florida was under 500,000 pounds last year and almost 1 million pounds the year before. So, you know, why not? And we're changing some rules to where it says that you basically, we can move things back and forth. That if one state goes over 10,000 pounds that another state's under, that they can swap that between states and not make people have to pay back. And we can work on some other issues, because the number one thing is we have X amount of million pounds that's allocated for the recreational and state charter for hire. And those are in the states, the 5 states, and we, as long as we don't exceed those goals, that's what we're looking at. And so we're trying to change that, and hopefully we'll get something. MS Creel is coming. It's going to be here shortly. I've got some good reports on it, and Trevor may want to talk about it later. I don't know if I don't even see Trevor out there. There he is. But we can talk about it in a little bit. Okay, and but MS Creel is going pretty good, and I think that's going to make another indication to where we would be able to get some more fish and be able to get us back to where we're at. So I think we're getting somewhere. We're actually getting somewhere, and I can tell you at the Gulf Council, the other states looked at it and said, it's time for us to take care of Mississippi a little bit. So hopefully we'll get there. Any questions? Seafood Task Force, I said we already met. We met on April 13th, and we had a good meeting, and everything's going forward on that. We are coming out with a new slogan. We're going to put together one. We're working with Visit Mississippi and also the Coastal Mississippi as the tourism, and we're working with a plan to come up with something, and it's going to have a design and going to have a logo, something entirely about seafood and Mississippi, and the seafood is going to be part of it, but Gulf seafood is going to be the major part of it. And we're going to try to basically work this with restaurants and markets and grocery stores and other places to be able to put these signs up and say, this is what we're selling. We sell this. We sell Gulf Fresh. We sell Mississippi. We sell what we're going to, we're looking at 2 or 3 different things. We're going to put some money into that. The state's going to put some money in it. And there's several different places that are putting money into it. And we're going to be able to go out and try to do a big campaign to where we get as many as we can. One of my goals is to take the, like a restaurant, if you own a restaurant, that I go in there and tell you, if you sell Mississippi seafood, if you sell American seafood, we're going to give you this amount of advertising. We're going to advertise for you. We're going to help you. We're not going to hurt you. We're going to help you. We're going to help you be able to do it. You may have to give a little bit more to be able to get the domestic seafood, but we're going to try to help you with advertising to be able to pay for that. I can't buy the seafood for you. I can help you with advertising. So that's something I'm talking about. And what I want to do is we got to do another thing. And I hate to keep rambling. I'm sorry. But we got to do another thing too. We got to get something out there, and we got to help our oystermen. We got plenty of oysters. We got a lot of oysters, something unusual, right? But they can't sell them. And we got to find a way to help them. We got to find a way to help them sell these oysters. And that's another thing I want to do. I want to work out something to where we could take like a restaurant and we give them X amount of oysters and let them do samples. and let the chefs go out and do some kind of sampling and everything else to say that we're going to make this dish with it, we're going to make this dish with it, we're going to do this, and maybe just like we got a seafood cook-off coming out next week, the 7th, the May 7th, and but maybe we do a cook-off, an oyster cook-off, and we just do it here locally. We do a locally oyster cook-off right here on the Gulf Coast, and then we get oysters and let them have them and take them and cook them in different ways, because we got a lot of big oysters, and that's what the problem is. It's not the little oysters, it's the big ones that we're having trouble with. And so let's find a way to do it. I was watching a video the other day of a guy in Louisiana. He had an oyster that big, and he was eating that oyster raw, and I was like, whoa, all right, you don't have to have about 2 per dozen, right? That's a pretty good sized oyster, but I thought that was neat. Let's find a way to help them. We've got oystermen coming back. We're averaging, Jason, we're averaging 30 or so a day out there now.
30 boats?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're getting something. I mean, we're getting there. Now we got to try to help them. Let's try to find a way to help them to be able to move forward. What can we do to do that? So if y'all got ideas, please help me. But I think having a cook-off or something like that Monday, and being able to get the public to know that these oysters are good just because they're 4.5 inches and not 3-inch oysters, and finding a way to do it. Any questions on that? All right, we have another meeting on 11th May. The next commission meeting is scheduled for the 19th. Any questions on that of May? Derelict vessels, we have 246 cases that have been reported since we started tracking. 211 have been removed, 35 are in pending removal, and 1 is in court order for removal. Any questions? Actions update.
Okay. At the last meeting, the commission recommended and the director approved the requested use plan change and certificate of waiver to CSX Transportation for their proposed expansion and maintenance of an existing railroad bridge in Grand Plains Bayou in Hancock County. The commission recommended and the director approved MDEQ's requested variance, use plan change, and a permit for its project to include the filling of 17 acres of unvegetated coastal wetlands for the construction of a living shoreline breakwater. And this was located south of Diamond Head in the Bay of St. Louis. There were several conditions attached to that permit that you can review. There was also a motion recommending approval of the requested variance and certificate of waiver to City of Ocean Springs to remove derelict pilings and bulkhead, and then replace the bulkhead and put riprap filling 4,626 square feet of unvegetated coastal wetlands in the Mississippi Sound in Jackson County. And then there was a proposal to changes to Title 22, Part 3, Chapter 5. That was sent to the Secretary of State's office for notice of intent. And that is it.
Okay. And one other thing, the Southern Shrimp Alliance, I think, has been doing some more testing of the shrimp on the Gulf Coast. And David Williams is the guy that does that with them. He called me the other day, and I was trying to look for the numbers, but I don't have them. But been a lot better. The last time they was reported like 2 or 3 that out of the ones they tested it were. But this time the numbers were a lot higher as for ones that were testing that were serving what they said they were serving. Okay. So this is fantastic, and we had a lot more people serving Gulf Fresh shrimp. There's a lot more people serving Gulf Fresh shrimp, so hopefully that's going to come out. I know he's got a report that's coming out, so if you see that, but the good thing about it is that it's going in a positive way, not a negative way. And I think that our bill that we have that is asking you to say it's either imported or domestic is helping a whole lot. And I think that we'll get there. And that just remember, we got to put everything we can to put out there, and not just shrimp, not just oysters, not just crab, but our finfish and everything else, to sell as much as we can of Gulf of America seafood in Mississippi. I appreciate it. That's all I have, sir.
Director, thank you. Sounds like everything's working as it was intended.
We didn't need any motions on yours or anything, right?
No.
Okay.
All right. Looks like moving on to Office of Marine Patrol, Captain Strickland.
Good morning. Hope everybody's doing real well. I'm sure you had a chance to look over the report. You'll notice that I don't think anything really stands out there. Most of the violations that occurred were regulatory over boat and water safety, and that's just due to the time of the year. I was primarily working. You'll notice that are mostly oyster violations, and it's mainly because the reef is open. Another month in the books with 0 boating fatalities. So we're looking at 2 out of the last 3 years that we haven't had a boating fatality on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So we're excited about that. Hope you guys are too. So take any questions that you may have.
That's great news to hear that. Appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you,
All right.
Captain.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like we're moving down to Coastal Resources Management. Miss Alicia Caron.
Good morning. So we have a request for permit by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, DMR. That was not right.
Got out the right one?
No.
All right, Brady, how about working on it? I thought it's usually me that messes up something in the computer, but hey, Mr. Chairman, while we're thinking about it, also, I was on a call this last week, and the Wildlife Fisheries Parks and Marine Foundation did get a $1 million grant, and the $1 million grant is going to them for oyster restoration, and they're gonna sub-grant that to us. And we're gonna be able to start here in the next, probably October, doing another, something with oysters to be able to help with another $1 million. And it's basically, Jason, then what it's gonna be is culch and putting culch down and doing some things and we gotta monitor wherever we put that, we're gonna find a spot, monitor it, and be able to do that, and then send a report back to Congress as to how it worked. So we're gonna get another $1 million. We won't get the whole, we'll get most of it, majority of it come down.
All right.
Now we got.
Thank you, Brady. All right, we have the request for permit by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, DMR 2674. The location's Round Island, Mississippi Sound, offshore Pascagoula, Jackson County, Mississippi. The use district is S6, special use for restoration and enhancement. The agent is Covington Civil and Environmental LLC, which a representative is present. The purpose of this project is to restore, expand, and protect coastal and island habitat and the beneficial use site at the Round Island complex, driven by ongoing erosion of Round Island, the continued regional loss of coastal wetlands, the importance of protecting recent restoration investments. Project description: fill in a coastal wetlands for the protection, restoration, and expansion of Round Island. Fill of 277 acres of coastal wetlands for the expansion of the island for creation of beach habitat, vegetated dune and high dune habitat, creation of a maritime forest, 3 acres of submerged and emergent reef habitat, creation of a swale pond, 14 acres of rock breakwaters, plus 4 feet crest elevation, NAV D88, placed no shallower than 3.5 feet, meaning low water. 4 borough areas totaling 319 acres with dredge depths of roughly 15 feet below the seafloor, and 2 temporary access channels totaling up to 33 acres, where the current depth is less than 3.5 feet, meaning low water. Project location. Oh, I apologize, my picture ain't well on that diagram. I don't know what happened there. Here's a cross-section of the breakwaters. And the reef structures on the breakwaters. Variance requests, they previously have a variance for filling of coastal wetlands, therefore one was not needed this go around. However, they did have to create a variance for Rule 8.18D. The dredging excavation process must avoid creating sinks or sumps. The proposed borrow areas are located in offshore waters of the Mississippi Sound in proximity to the Round Island complex, with existing elevations ranging from approximately -5 to -10 feet NAV D88. The proposed maximum dredge depth of -15 feet NAV D88 exceeds the existing bottom elevation. It was justified by Rule 8.19C. No feasible alternative sites or construction techniques are available. There's significant public benefit in the activity, and public hearing has been conducted. The proximal offshore borrow areas proposed are the only practicable means of obtaining fill material to accomplish the location-specific restoration objectives of the Round Island expansion project. The project serves a significant public benefit through the restoration and long-term protection of the coastal habitat, enhancement of fisheries and shorebird habitat, and improved resilience of the Mississippi Sound's barrier island system. Public notice. Notification of the proposed project appeared in the Sun Herald on March 22nd and 29th and April 5th, 2026. Notification of the proposed project appeared on the DMR website starting on March 20th, 2026. No public comments were received. A public hearing was held on April 7th, 2026, and no public comments were received. Agency comments continued. MDEQ, no comments. MDAH, no comments. MDWFP, no comments. The Secretary of State stated that a rent-exempt public trust tidelands lease will be required. DMR Fisheries, no comments. DMR Office of Marine Patrol, no comments. City of Pascagoula, DMR has an MOA with the city for the project. The staff of the Department of Marine Resources has conducted a thorough evaluation of the project and has made findings on the decision factors in accordance with Title 22, Part 23 of the Mississippi Coastal Program. The project would serve a higher public interest by reducing the erosion of the Round Island, addressing the continued regional loss of wetlands, protecting recent restoration investments. Therefore, staff request a motion that the commission recommend to the executive director approve the requested variance and approve the permit as requested.
It's a significant project.
Yes.
Yeah, what kind of timeline or duration would be anticipated for something of this magnitude? That's a long one.
2027, 8.
Yeah, we anticipate a construction. Heath Ansel, lead coastal engineer with Covington Civil Environmental, the permit agent. We anticipate a construction timeline of about a year, likely starting in 2027 or 2028.
Understood. And I think that there wasn't, I mean, it wasn't what, it was less than 8 years ago. There was a major restoration for Round Island. Was that how long it was? Yeah.
And this held up pretty good.
Yeah.
The original sand berm project, Round Island project, was constructed in 2016, 2017.
Yeah, I think this is the area that was owned by the city or something, and it had and there was some question as to whether or not we could get an MOU to do it, and there was a way to do it. Jennifer, you may know more about it. But it was basically something we had to work through. Go ahead, Jennifer, if you got something else to say about it.
There was a private inholding on the island, and with DEQ, we were able to acquire that property to become part of the coastal preserve system. And then additionally, the city of Pascagoula held the area where the Round Island Lighthouse used to be located. So the funding stream that the city used when they purchased that property wouldn't allow transfer of the property, but we were able to enter into an MOA with them so that we can do maintenance on the island as a whole, and it allows for the restoration and the enhancement and additions to historic Round Island, as well as the new Round Island property that was built in 16 or 17.
This is going to be something too. Anytime we rebuild, these islands and do something with it, it's changing the two or three things. Obviously, it changes some of the salinity when the water is, whether, the way it's coming in and out. It also helps on the erosion for if you go to, the mainland and the erosion there, this helps the erosion a whole lot. And, anything that we can do there is going to help us. And I think that, keep us from losing that 200 or 300 acres a year. So
I like the reef habitat configuration. That's what it looks like.
that's
And then,
always good there too.
yeah, for sure.
We all like that.
Yeah.
And does the deeper borrower area on the east side over there, does that inhibit erosion itself with the water depth?
The borrow areas should have minimal impact on the erosion patterns. They're mainly outside of the protection structures, so any minimal changes to wave patterns are going to have an insignificant effect on the erosion.
Guess we need a motion.
We
I'll
do.
make the motion.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, looks like Miss Lauren.
Good morning.
Morning.
The city of Gulfport has requested a permit for a project on the Mississippi Sound near Courthouse Road in Gulfport, Mississippi. The project is located in a general use district. Michael Baker International are acting as the city's agents. The project purpose and need: the project will reduce sediment accumulation in the nearby boat launch, improving navigation for boaters and reducing the frequency of dredging. The project includes the fill of 0.59 acres of unvegetated coastal wetlands using approximately 8,000 cubic yards of fill material. Approximately 100 feet of the existing jetty will be widened, and the jetty will be extended approximately 430 feet with a maximum base width of approximately 51 feet, and 5 new channel markers will also be installed. This is an overview of the project location. It's south of Highway 90 near the Kincombs boat launch and fishing pier. The project area diagram. The red is circling the part of the existing jetty that will have material added. Only 100 feet of that section will be widened. The rest is maintenance, and that will not result in additional fill. The blue indicates the extension, and the yellow indicate the new channel marker locations. The applicant has requested a variance to Rule 8.15.a, which states permanent filling of coastal wetlands below the ordinary high water mark is not authorized. They have justified the request using Rule 819C. No feasible alternative sites or construction techniques are available. There's a significant public benefit in the activity, and there's a significant public benefit in the activity, and a public hearing has been conducted. Notification of the proposed project appeared in the Sun Herald on February 8th, 15th, and 22nd. It was posted to the MDMR website on February 6th through March 11th. No public comments were received from the public notice. A public hearing was held as part of the variance justification. 4 members of the public commented on the project. They were generally in favor of the project, but there were some questions and concerns. There was some confusion about the impacts to coastal wetlands versus vegetated wetlands. The agent clarified that coastal wetlands refers to the publicly owned water bottoms, and there are no proposed impacts to vegetated wetlands. Commenters mentioned concerns about parking availability, especially for boat trailers. The agent stated that the city is aware of current issues with parking, and while there are no plans to increase the parking lot size, they may consider other options such as better signage, repainting lines, and parking enforcement. There were questions about the timing of construction and how it would affect use of the boat launch. The agent responded that timing will depend on state and federal permits, funding, and water levels for barge access. Construction will take approximately 120 days, and there are no plans to close the boat ramp during construction. Finally, there were questions about the increased usage of current facilities and if there were plans for further amenities such as bait shops for fishermen. The agent stated that they don't expect a significant increase in facility maintenance, and there are no plans for city amenities, but there is a private gas station being constructed across the highway. For agency comments, no comments were provided from MDEQ or MDAH. Secretary of State's office stated that a rent-exempt Tidelands lease would be required, and Harrison County Sand Beach Authority had no objections. The staff of the Department of Marine Resources has conducted a thorough evaluation of the project and has made findings on the decision factors in accordance with Title 22, Part 23. The project would serve a higher public interest by ensuring safe navigational depths on the approach to the nearby boat launch, increasing public access to coastal wetlands. Therefore, staff requests a motion that the commission recommend to the executive director to approve the requested variance and approve the permit as requested. And if you have any questions, we have representatives from Michael Baker and the city here, I believe.
Appears to me like it's adding the additional jetty just is going to give it some longevity for use and help with the consistent dredging and what have you. So, I mean, it looks very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's needed. That boat launch's been a problem for a long time. Silting in and sanding in, that extra jetty hopefully will keep that navigable.
Well, that being said, do we have a motion to approve the variance and permit?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Miss Leslie. Oh,
If I do, I have
sorry.
something very quick.
Yes, sir.
All right, David just sent me a message and the press release about the shrimps coming up, and they'll come out today, but 64% of the restaurants are now serving American wild caught. That's pretty good. That's up from 18% that was last time tested. So
Success.
thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Miss Leslie.
Good morning, everyone. I'm presenting the financials for March 31st, 2026. At the end of March, our state revenue was $5.5 million. Our agency revenue was $21.2 million. State net income is a negative $1 million, and agency net income is negative $20 million. We're still waiting for our GMESA funds to come in, so hopefully that'll be any day now. After 9 months of 26, our operating funds have 86.2% of the budget remaining, and our Tidelands is at 55.3%. Anyone have any questions?
Any questions? I don't think so. I appreciate it. Thank you for the update. Ms. Charmaine, Public Affairs.
Good morning. The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources had 12 media mentions since the March MACMR meeting. News items included the Bolton building updates, Mississippi's oyster leasing law, and the GOMESA and Tidelands funds appropriated by the Mississippi legislature. Marine Patrol participated in CASA's Touch a Truck in Hancock County on March 28th, as well as the Stone County Sheriff's Office Public Safety Cadet Info Training on April 3rd. Marine Patrol Captain Will Freeman and Chief Operating Officer Patrick Levine gave the keynote address with an agency overview and a presentation on investigations at the Mississippi Division of the International Association for Identification Annual Conference on April 13th in Pascagoula. The Lyman Hatchery participated in a redfish release with St. Martin High School's aquaculture class on March 18th, as well as a redfish release with Ocean Springs High School's aquaculture class on March 29th. Hatchery staff also assisted with the St. Jude Bass Tournament at the D'Iberville Civic Center on March 22nd. And the hatchery also hosted a tour at the Lyman Aquaculture facilities with the St. Martin Aquaculture class on April 14th. Shrimp and Crab Bureau Director Jason Soche gave a Mississippi shrimp fishery update at the American Shrimp Processors Association annual meeting on March 20th in Biloxi. Thomas Butera in the Office of Coastal Resources Management participated in Streaming the Coast at Infinity Science Center on March 28th. Coastal's Caitlin Payne and Allison Faggard participated in Nature Fest at the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science on April 11th in Jackson. The Mississippi Gulf Coast National Heritage Area participated in the Arts Alive Festival and Hancock County Parade of Homes at the Bay St. Louis Historic Depot on March 21st. Heritage Area staff and NEAR staff both participated in Ocean Springs Earth Day 2026 at the Mary C. this past Saturday. The NEAR's Emmett Carsons provided observer training for students at the University of South Alabama on March 27th, participated in Flower Fest at the Walter Anderson Museum of Art on April 11th, and also observer training for Dauphin Island Sea Lab students and residents of Dauphin Island on April 12th. Our agency also participated in the Celebrate the Gulf Marine Education Festival in Pass Christian on April 11th, and Aisha will talk about more on this later this morning.
All right. Any questions? All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Looks like we're moving down to marine fisheries.
Yeah, you're
Trevor?
gonna have Travis and Eric here in a minute, but I wanted to preview the presentations for y'all, and then also to start to talk, mention the passing of Jim Franks. Obviously, he meant a lot to our group. I'm sure he meant a lot to y'all. It's the passing of an icon and a literal giant standing at 6'10". For everyone who knew him, positive impacts all around. I think there'll be plenty of time for us to celebrate him in the coming weeks as we get more information about the time and everything else like that. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of efforts in the future to try to honor his legacy. And I think as a testament to what he stood for and what he meant, all of those attempts will likely shortfall given the breadth of what he was able to do here. But just to highlight what you're about to hear, you're going to hear a program update from Travis, and it's going to end with a pretty big announcement for the agency as a whole. And you're going to hear MS Krill update from Eric. Just think through these in terms of one involves the process of permitting, working back and forth with the federal government, and the other one is a state-led initiative to try to create a positive impact on our side by doing it. The one you're going to hear about from Travis involves essentially a decade-long attempt to create a new artificial reef zone. It had 1 year of public comment, and it sat in consultation on the federal side for up to 4 years. Every time the state was provided feedback for something to provide, we did it in a timely manner. We did everything we were supposed to do. There was a leadership change in which we had to withdraw the permit programmatically and still and resubmit it for consideration. It sat in consultation for another 2 years. At that point, we were asked to come up with a whole new survey, cultural resources survey, to determine the impact, which lasted another year, and then we had another year after that before we actually got the permit. So a decades-long spanning across multiple employees, multiple directors, and that's what it took to get this effort across. So I just want to, as y'all go through this, just think about the amount of work it took from the fishery staff, from the leadership, to try to get this thing moving and create a positive impact, and contrast that with the timeline you're going to hear from Eric when he talks about MS Krill.
Yeah, and for Dr. Franks, yeah, we would love to do something. You know, I tell you what, he was such a great man, and did a great job for us, and you know, used to do our surveys for us, a lot of different things that he did for us, and give us different information. And he was pretty big on the Menhaden part too, wasn't he? I think he was one that was working with that some. and did a lot of stuff to help us with things and all. So, yeah, whatever we can do, and you know, hopefully we can help honor him because he was a fantastic man.
Hi, good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Director, Ms. Sandy. Yeah, I just want to echo some of those comments before I get started. We lost a pillar to the marine science community last week with the passing of Jim. Just a brilliant mind, a brilliant researcher, a brilliant scientist, not only for Mississippi Gulf Coast, but the Gulf and the Caribbean. But more than all of the scientific articles, you know, the papers, the projects, the publications he put out, he was just a kind, humble, friendly human being. He had a way of talking to you where, you know, he never made you feel beneath him. I mean, the conversations that you had with him as a young researcher, he was always interested in what you had, and just an excellent way of communication. So, like I say, we were fortunate enough that he called Mississippi home, and I think we're all gonna miss him for sure. So this morning, it's probably been, I guess, a year or so since we've given you all an update on the Artificial Reef Program. Just want to go through some of the things that we've been working on, some of the plans for the future, and some exciting news at the end. Last year, we were approached by the Secretary of State's office. They were kind of revamping the Broadwater Marina there in Biloxi. It's kind of been sat vacant since Katrina. So the Secretary of State's office has been doing some work out there, have big plans for the future. But anyway, we were approached about using some of the concrete pillars, some of the bulkhead and the actual roadway out there for artificial reef. So it all actually worked. It took us a little while, several months to get the details and everything worked out. But we were able to take that material out to Katrina Key. A few years back, we did a project on the west end of Katrina Key where we put some concrete culverts out. Over that time period, over the last few years, some of that material has set a little bit. Well, with the coming of this Broadwater material, we were able to go back and cap that. So we actually were able to bring that back up to elevation as specified by the permits. So realistically, it was a good project for us. It was kind of brought some nostalgia back for the Broadwater Marina to actually put it back out as an artificial reef. So we were very, very pleased with that, and we were happy with the way that worked out. So you guys, like I say, look forward to that this summer. But overall, I think it ended up being several barge loads of material that we brought out there. So it was nice. Good project and good protection for the island and like I say, artificial reef in general. What we're currently working on, and another project we've been working on over the past year, is we were approached by Bollinger Shipyard about a project that they had out there that come to the end of its life. It was a pipe production line that they had out there. It had lots of concrete pillars and ballast that they were looking to get rid of, and wanted to donate it to the Artificial Reef Program. So it took some time to get that through the procurement process. But everything, I can't say that project started last month. To date, we actually did a deployment Friday on FH2, so we've done 4 deployments offshore with that material. It's approximately 1,600 tons of concrete. These are large beams. Like I mentioned, I added a video to this presentation. Not technologically savvy, so I'm not sure if it's going to play, and it may need a little bit of help from Brady. But just to give you some scale, those beams are they're over 45,000 pounds a piece. They're approximately 45 feet long, 4.5 feet tall. There were, I think, 60 of those that are available. So like I say, we've done close to half of that. But it's fairly easy once you get it offshore to offload it. It's just obviously the logistics of getting it out there is a little bit time consuming. So that project will continue. The weather's kind of shut us down the beginning of this week and the last few weeks with the wind. But as soon as we can get back get back out to finishing that up, we absolutely will. So the future, this is another project that we and the staff and I have worked on for the past year and a half. We've worked on NIFWF projects for the last several years. As a matter of fact, we recently received the intent to award from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, $12.35 million. This is phase two of the inshore and offshore artificial reef project. These are funded by the Gulf Environmental Benefit Fund. These are oil spill monies. So there's actually 3 projects that are kind of built into this one large proposal. There's an inshore component where we have $5.2 million to restore our inshore artificial reefs. And what this means is across 63 inshore artificial reefs, those funds will plant approximately 2 acres of limestone, 3 inches thick, across all of South Mississippi. So every site will be basically enhanced. So we're excited about that. That's obviously going to take several months for us to do.
Travis, explain to them why we can't put any structure on the inshore reefs.
Yeah, so the inshore reefs, obviously, everything that we have is permitted by our office here and the Corps of Engineers. Our inshore reefs, there are requirements built into these permits, navigational hazards, as most would say. So our inshore reefs, they're limited to 6 inches, can't have any more than 6 inches of relief off the bottom. So the materials that are suitable for that are limestone, crushed concrete, and oyster shell. So in our inshore reefs, they're low profile. Typically, they'll be made of oysters at some point, and that's kind of our hope. And so that this project, like I say, it'll fund the restoration and enhancement of all 63 that we currently have. So that's in the plans. The second phase of this project is one at the Barrier Islands. It's a Petty Boy. It was presented last year as a permit to you all. That is still moving forward. There's another component to that. Like Trevor just mentioned, the Corps is requiring us to do a maritime cultural resources survey before we can move forward with that. So part of that survey and the funding for that survey is going to be provided with this project. So we'll have to complete that survey, then finish the actual permitting process for that application. So that project is still likely a couple years out, to be honest with you, because we do have to complete the survey before we can get the permit, and that's going to take some time. But that is $600,000 to build approximately 200 artificial reef modules. We don't have any particular design in mind right now. As we get closer, we'll kind of narrow it down, but that is a 15-acre site that's going to be on the north side of Petty Boy. It's about 2 miles north of the island. So it kind of gives us, that mid-shore artificial reef on the east end of the state. So we're excited about that when it comes along. And we'll keep you all updated as that gets closer. And then the last remaining portion of those funds is approximately $4.5 million for offshore artificial reef enhancement. Primarily, that is going to be used to clear off my staging site in Gulfport. I have a lot of material out there right now. We're pretty much 95% capacity. This consists of concrete culverts, manholes, box covers, power poles that have been donated by Mississippi Power. So just a lot of material out there, and that's going to be the soonest that we're going to, the nearest project we're going to start working on is actually probably going to go out for public advertisement here in the next few weeks. So we're trying to get that started this fall. Several deployments. I expect probably 35 different sites just on that material. And then any funds that are remaining from that and those deployments, we'll look at some materials of design, where we'll go out and look at actually building something to put out there with monies that are left over.
Travis, also tell, this, what he's talking about, we're using majority of the money to be able just to deploy the stuff, because, all the stuff you've got was given to you, wasn't it?
Yeah, all the stuff that we've received at the staging site, we haven't paid for one piece of that material. And oftentimes, we're fortunate enough with these contractors that we work with, they'll even deliver the material to us. So that's another cost that we don't even pay for the transportation. When it comes to us, then we pay for the transportation offshore. So we're very fortunate, and we have a good connection with a lot of local contractors that help make this possible. And then lastly, to finish this off, probably, as Trevor mentioned, this is one of the most exciting things for us. It's been a long time coming. But I'd like to formally introduce y'all to Mississippi Reef Complex 1 and 2. Mississippi Reef Complex 1 is located adjacent to FH13. It's to the west there. It's the largest block. It's approximately 11,500 acres. Mississippi Reef Complex 2 is south side and adjacent to FH13. It's 5,075 acres. So combined, you're looking at 16,575 acres, which is almost 26 square miles of newly permitted artificial reef bottom for the state of Mississippi. This newly permitted area, it doubles the size of our fish havens. So we've essentially doubled the size of our offshore footprint, and like I say, we're excited. When I just talked about the NIFWIF project and the offshore component of that, we're going to focus on these two new sites. These sites provide us with a good future that'll outlast my career here for sure. So, like I say, a lot of big things coming. Part of this is in state, part of the northern part of that is in state waters, and obviously the southern portion being federal waters. So we can accommodate a lot of the materials that we have in the past. We have room for larger vessels to continue to maintain that, so we can capture the barges, vessels, things of that nature, fishing boats. And the permits allow us to, continue to do anything from vessels, barges, metal structures, concrete, just a whole sort of just approved materials. So good look for the future. And like I say, we're excited. Staff worked hard, and we'll continue, pushing forward. And with that, I'll take any questions.
That's great news. Yeah, that's all great. Good job. I know there's a lot of it takes a minute to get there.
Years.
Lots of work. Yeah. So that's great. I appreciate it. And you wouldn't think that that FH4 it would get pressure, but it actually does. There's a lot of pressure. I mean, just as a recreational fisherman, so it's great to see it expanding to that magnitude. That's great news.
This will also help, Commissioner Daniels, I'm sure you'll like this part, because being a state charter, it'll be able to help, especially being able to replenish some of these inshore reefs, and then a little bit of that, what we're being able to put in state waters. And that at least we'll be able to enhance that a little bit more, and maybe help out with our state charters and be able to keep them moving a little bit.
Yeah, that was actually one question I had. Do you have an idea of how much of it's actually in state waters?
So we've looked at the maps, and not having a clear defined boundary. We're focusing right, and I'll be honest with y'all, we have done one deployment in the new site, and it is in state waters. We did that a couple weeks ago, so we have done our first official deployment in the Reef Complex 1. So that one, like I say, I'm not exactly 100% sure. We keep going back and forth, kind of looking at that boundary, but I do know the northern portion of that is in state waters. So we are focusing, some of the first deployments this next couple months we are doing on that north.
Well, you answered my second question too.
Yeah. And those coordinates will be released before snapper season next year.
Well, and the other thing too, to the whole staff there, they've worked hard for this. They've worked hard, and I mean, every time, as you heard Trevor said earlier, every time that they got one step forward, they took two steps back. And, because of some kind of bureaucracy thing or whatever happened, and they never gave up. they never gave up and they kept fighting. And I tell you what, hats off to them. And, I think we got a Katrina Key Project 2 coming up. Between those two and what you just talked, we're talking $20 million worth of artificial reef stuff that's going to come into Mississippi. That's a lot.
A lot.
That's a whole lot. And that's a lot more than probably been spent in Mississippi in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But the point I'm getting at is they are working hard, and they're working extremely hard to bring up our fisheries to the point to where not just our recreational, but our charters and others can be able to have something to go for. And very proud of the whole staff. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, with that offshore, phase 2 project, Katrina Key, that's those 2 projects total over $20 million. We recently received some Go Mesa funds, over $1 million, to work with the Gulf fishing banks. So there's a lot of good future projects over the next several years that'll take place. So, I mean, and I get it. People jump on us all the time about we want reefs here, we want reefs now, we want reefs there, and we're working on it. But it is a process. So nothing moves fast, but it is on moving.
What is that? So when you deployed like the offshore reefs, I mean, that's about a year after deployment before you guys open.
Yeah.
And then inshore is immediate, right?
Yeah, because they're already established in the sites, and we have to deploy inside those permanent areas. So they're already defined. But offshore, we'll hold them for a year. What I've started doing, in all honesty, is I'll release what we've had from the previous year before Memorial Weekend. So
Great news. Any other questions? I appreciate the info, Travis.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Looks like we've got the Mississippi Creel presentation. Eric?
Good morning, Commissioners, Director, Ms. Chestnut. Before jumping into the presentation, I'll just quickly echo the sentiment from Trevor and Travis on Dr. Franks. Extremely impactful to my career. Met him shortly after starting at the research lab, and instantly just an insanely kind human being and the most knowledgeable fisheries person I've ever met. So we're really thrilled to be able to do some of the triple tail and cobia stuff and have him informed prior to his passing. Really put science to a lot of things that we've discussed over the years as possible things that could be happening, and those species held a warm part in his heart as well as mine. So but moving on to MS Creel. So the purpose of this presentation is really to connect some of the dots of things that we've discussed over the years. The director mentioned Creel earlier, as well as its impacts to red snapper, ACL, and our future for state monitoring of the species. So we'll jump in. Historically, you've heard of MRIP and the fisheries program for landings for the recreational sector. It's been called various things over the years, and all those acronyms really just add up to some numbers that we don't have 100% certainty in. So over the years, we've adapted and implemented tails and scales for red snapper specifically. MS Creel is intended to take the place of both the federal survey as well as tails and scales. So it does all species. It began in 2024, and we did this alongside Alabama, who's going through some of the same issues we've been. And we adapted the methodology straight from LA Creel. It's an established method. We know it works. They've proved it since 2015. And so this we saw as the future of Mississippi's management, not just for federal species monitoring, but also for getting us real numbers at our state species. So we'll touch on a couple of different points that all add up to the program whole. The first is the access point survey, and that's where most of the public, as well as some of our commissioners, see us on a regular basis. So we'll go dockside and talk to the actual fishermen as they come in. Before we can do that, we have to have local knowledge for what is happening in our area. County by county, dock by each type of fishing that occurs, shore, charter, and private recreational, and develop weights to get us at the right places at the right times to capture all the different types of activity. And this pretty much guides the rest of the program for where we are, what estimates get developed, and leans heavily on what we observe, but also what we know about our anglers and our fisheries. So we develop a schedule based off of those weights of all the information that we know, and you'll see us anywhere between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. or 2 p.m. to sunset, depending on the time of the year. In the summer, we get to as late as 8 p.m., and in the winter, closer to 5 p.m., but we're there until the sun goes down. We have surveys conducted, at least 9 per week, with most of those being on the weekend, because that's when most of the fishing activity occurs. So our staff do a fair bit of weekend work outside of normal work hours and even into the evenings during the week. But we do that because that's when the fishery is accessed. Now in snapper season, we jump those numbers up to 14 surveys per week because we want to have the best possible chance to capture the red snapper as they're coming in addition to just peak activity through the summer. We know May through August is our peak season, and we want to make sure that we're capturing that information correctly. So we get our largest sample sizes during that time. Currently, we conduct the survey on paper, but we did just secure funding for development of a real-time app, web app, that will allow our staff to update the data in the field. So it'll be nearly real time for turnaround, where we can get the information available for developing estimates as short as a week or two, compared to what we currently got, or we used to get out of the federal program, which was in the range of 2 to 6 months, depending on staffing. And the key thing that comes out of these dockside surveys is the type of trip that it was, the harvest rate per angler for each one of those species that we observe, as well as the area that those fish were harvested from. All right, so then the next aspect of this is recreational fishing licensing. It's more than that. It is our universe of anglers that we know are accessing and harvesting fish for the state of Mississippi. This differs from the federal survey, as this survey doesn't go to any random household in the state. It goes to those who we know are actually accessing the fisheries. And so we take all types of licenses, basically everyone 65 plus saltwater are included, lifetime sportsmen are included, as well as all of the variations of annual and short-term licenses, in-state, out-of-state, everybody's included. Adding on to that, we have a separate group. Y'all have heard multiple times us talk about the recreational offshore landing permit. That withdraws any angler that accesses our federal fisheries into a unique group that we can access more readily. We have good contact information for, and we're able to get the most precise estimates out of the group that is accessing, honestly, fishes more often for key species. And so we've had this program in place, the permit, since 2024. As far as we're concerned, it is eligible for enforcement by Marine Patrol in 2026. We've really gotten great compliance out of it. We see from our actual call outs, we ask them, do you have an offshore landing permit? And it lines up that the folks that need to have it, and the folks that don't need to have it, they don't. So believe that that's working really well, and probably stems from the historical support from anglers for tails and scales. We know that everyone who's in tails and scales is also an offshore angler for the permit, and we're able to get that information to them and really get the program up to speed quickly. When an angler registers, we got a few comments. So the program is free, but it does have to be renewed every calendar year. That's one that comes up often. Even if you only have to get your lifetime license once, we still need you to get the offshore landing permit every single year. But it's free. So it often takes seconds to renew. Even just the initial application takes a minute or two with basic information off your fishing license. And then we give you an instant digital copy so you can go fishing immediately and feel safe from a citation perspective. But you get a hard copy you can put in your wallet in about 2 to 4 weeks. We're getting those shipped out. As soon as we get approximately 200 registrants, we send out another batch. And it's only available at the DMR website. Specific link for offshore landing permit. It is not on the MDWFP license frame, and we do that so that we can keep it for free. If you put it on a access site for all recreational fishing licenses, it makes it where it's an add-on. Anybody who might think they might use it for a species throws it on there just because they can, and then our numbers get off and we're elevating the number of folks that are snapper fishing when we know that that number is too high. And right now I think historically we went from about 7,000 to 8,000, 9,000 from 24, 25 and what we're projecting for 26. And that's right in the right range for what we expected off of numbers we've had historically from Tails and Scales. So seems to be working appropriately. All right, now the effort survey, this is a key aspect of the program that really sets us apart from the federal side. So we contact those license holders that we described, and we're calling 800 to 900 contacts per week. It spans each type of license holder. So you have the offshore landing permit, anybody who's in the coastal 6 counties, anybody who is north of the coastal 6 counties in Mississippi, and then our out-of-state license holders. But it's an even distribution across all of those. And we call until we hit 400 responses from any range of the different groups. But we just want to make sure that we're getting at least half of those respondents as a yes, I fished, or a no, I did not fish. We're calling on Tuesday through Friday for the week before. So you are fresh in your mind about what you just did this past weekend, and then also the previous week. And we're not having a whole lot of recall bias. One thing that we've been able to implement is also the text and email version of the survey, which has been extremely successful. We're getting about 150 to 160 responses just by the angler catching a text and an email and filling out the information themselves. It takes approximately 15 to 30 seconds to fill it out, and has reduced the number of calls we have to make by somewhere in the range of 600 to 700 calls. So we had a external third party conducting the survey for us the previous 2 years. It was the same one that had done the Louisiana survey. They were making anywhere between 2,200 and 2,800 dials per week. We have that down to 1,100 dials per week. So we're operating at pretty much maximum efficiency, getting quality data, and it's our actual field staff and contractors that are conducting the calls. All right, so this is kind of a key graphic of what we're capturing. You have the inshore area marked as 0, barrier islands is 15, 77 for Louisiana waters, 33 for Alabama waters, and 99 for the offshore waters. This is captured both on the effort survey for where those trips occurred, as well as at the dockside for where they harvested their fish, and we're able to match up that information to get different catch rates for, say, Louisiana fish versus for Barrier Island fish. Now, this is the fun part. So we're not going to touch this today. The key thing to see here is that there's a lot going in the background to make all these numbers make sense. What y'all need to take away is MDMR calls times the catch rates that are coming into the dockside from DMR surveys result in numbers that we believe. We know that what is coming in is accurate, it's captured the right way, it's not overestimating anything, it's not underestimating anything, and we trust the data, which is nice to say because that's new for what we've seen in the last 30, 40 years.
I'm glad you didn't ask me to explain that last slide, though.
Don't ask me either. I don't need that. No, huge thanks to Louisiana on that. They have some statistical geniuses on their staff, as well as some contractors they brought in to help them establish the program. And it really made it to where we can adapt the code and adapt what we're estimating to fit Mississippi's needs, but we did not have to do the legwork on all of that. So much appreciation to Louisiana Parks and Wildlife. All right, so a couple of key things to show you. So we've got 2 years of data for the dockside portion, for the effort portion. And what you see here on the left in blue is the MS Creel program. On the right, MRIP. The pattern is pretty perfect for what we would expect out of Mississippi recreational fishing through the year. The dashed line shifts into 2025. So you see the peak in the summer, goes down in the wintertime, and then peaks back up in the summer. That's what we expect. MRIP is on the right in the green. There is some pattern, but then you see a random drop off when effort should be at its highest. And then wave 6, that November, December at the end of 2024, we have a peak when it should be about half of that. And so these are some of the issues that we've seen over the years. It's consistent. It's not any different than what we've had issues with and have brought up and tried to explain over many, many years. The key thing to take away here is that number at the top of the bar that's circled in blue. For Mississippi, it's in the range of 150,000. Actually 120,000, with our top bar being around 100,000 trips. For MRIP, it's about 5-6 times that, peaking around 500,000. So it's a scale issue. We've known this for years, but now we have a direct comparison where we have another program that is showing that the number's not right. Now, what's interesting to us, you take our existing program, Tails and Scales, in the tan. We trust those numbers because it's exactly what's being landed in Mississippi. And then compare that to MS Creel. We saw that red snapper harvest in 2025, we had 13,000 fish tracked in Tails and Scales and about 14,500 in Creel. Pretty close, given completely different programs, completely different methodologies. Makes us feel good about MS Creel. And then we get MRIP in the green with 74,000 fish. So consistent across the board for what we see in effort being scaled up to our federal fisheries. And then the bottom graph is the same thing, just shows the red line with our state ACL that we've been monitoring to in Tails and Scales. It was 82,000 pounds this past year. We harvested 79 in Tails and Scales. And according to MS Creel, we harvested in the territory of 87,000 pounds. So not quite 1-to-1, but definitely in the same territory compared to what we saw out of MRIP. Oh, wrong button. All right, so bringing it all together and some of the key aspects of what this does for the state, it does not get us immediately back to 151,000 pounds like we had from 2018 to 2022, but it does remove the burden, not this year, but in future years, of mandatory reporting of Tails and Scales. From a legal perspective, we have been held up by the federal side too much to be legally allowed to use MS Creel as the in-season monitoring system for red snapper. We have to have a certified program. We have been certified. I get ahead of myself. But we've been certified according to the consultants, but it is still held up at the federal leadership level. So Tails and Scales functionally will be in place this year alongside our MS Creel program, but the federal program is not operating in Mississippi this year. We can actually look at all the data for all the species. We have spotted sea trout numbers that are believable. We don't have estimates of effort that are double what we saw in June, and we're getting double that in November, December. The numbers are making sense. It's things that we can use for management and be able to feed into our state assessments moving forward. So we feel really good about it. And we've really maximized the efficiency. We saw what Louisiana was doing, and we took it as an opportunity to do things as well or better than what they were producing, and we found a lot of ways to do that. And the benefit across the region is Louisiana having this long-standing program, Mississippi and Alabama getting the same program online, that we now have a program that is consistent across all 3 states for all species and presents some opportunities for regional management that gets away from Gulf-wide management or state-specific management that I think can benefit all 3 states. So we submitted for certification for MS Creel. We actually submitted in October of this past year. We got held up by the federal shutdown in the fall, as well as just the timely process of the federal side. But the MRIP consultants that have to certify the program to meet the design standards have said there's no reason why MS Creel should not be certified. The estimates are expected to be compatible with those of existing state surveys for the purpose of stock assessment and fisheries management. The program should facilitate the direct comparisons between state fisheries that are targeting similar stocks. And since most assumptions are similar to MRIP, we assume that the survey designs are equivalent. So it checks off all the boxes. Glowing reviews of this program will be successful. It is doing what it's supposed to do in a statistically rigorous way. And to us, it's producing estimates that are believable while meeting all those standards. Right this moment, we are awaiting approval from NIMS and NOAA leadership. We have no communication on that, but it's been with them for approximately a week or two. There is also calibration discussions that are ongoing. We don't have a solid point at which we can agree on anything with the federal side. They want us to calibrate much the way that we were forced into calibration with tails and scales. We are not allowing that. There is no benefit to the stakeholder for us to do that, and there are other options that we are going down. So we don't have their approval at this point in time. For some aspects, we don't need their approval. There's many conversations that are going on at the SSC level, at Gulf Council, and with the other states to try to figure out where are we actually going to land with calibration, with ACL dispersal, and a lot of question marks. A lot more question marks than we've had in the last 10 to 15 years, which in general is a good thing. We're not locked into an issue. We are exploring all the options of where we can go the best way for the state. And I just want to kind of touch on a few things for our staff. It's not just me. There's been a ton of staff that have touched on this. Every single person in the Finfish Bureau conducts surveys, whether it's the call-outs or the dockside surveys. We've had a few key staff that have been instrumental in developing the program, getting it off the ground. Jeremy Timms with automation and the statistical side has been a massive, massive undertaking, and he's really just been all over it. James Klein, and he no longer works for us. He works for the research lab now, but Matt Burns put a ton of time and effort into the statistical side for making sure that all of the things that we're estimating are actually estimating the right things. And that was a task that it was well suited for them. They did a fantastic job on it. Megan Fleming runs our day-to-day. She coordinates both the programs for the dockside and the call-out effort. And then all of our other staff, the local knowledge is us getting in a room and discussing every site, what happens at those sites, looking at the previous year's data from the last 15 years to try to make sure that we have the best understanding from all of our technicians, scientists, program managers, making decisions on the program. So much appreciation to all of them for their effort over the last year, year and a half. And we did it in a time frame that was kind of not feasible to most. We got it off the ground in less than a year. Much of the program was developed on the scale of months, and the certification part getting pushed through, we were returning comments within a week when it was taking months to get the actual information to us. So a lot of thanks to all those folks, Louisiana, Alabama going alongside it with us. The coordination from Gulf States, it's been a huge project with a lot of different players. But with that, I'll take any questions, and I think Trevor probably has a few comments on it as well.
Great presentation.
You know, I think this is going to make a big difference. And two things. Number one, you know, we had the best program in America, but for some reason, NOAA just didn't want to accept it. And we had and it was noted by a lot of people that it was the best in America. It was one of the best programs that had ever been. And but anyway, that's neither here or there, right? Tails and Scales was a fantastic group, and it did give us a lot of data to be able to work with. But this program aligns us, if it goes the way we look at it, and which I feel it will. Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama are all going to be on one program, and that means 2/3 of the Gulf is on one program. And so now only Texas and Louisiana and Florida are on different programs. So this will be a model, and it'll be something that's hard for NOAA to turn back to say that this is not the way to do it, because and I'm not sure that I think they're on board with us wanting to do that. Between what we do here and if we do change the allocation, we ought to be back to where we need to be. And, you know, if allocation works and everything, we ought to be back close to where we need to be. And, you know, the team has worked hard on this. And I tell you what, it's proven itself. Everybody I've talked to, when you talk to Andy Stelcheck with NIMS, you know, he's like, hey, this is doing good. Everybody, the SSC that Trevor's ahead of is all on board with us, I think, with this, and they see it's working great. I've heard nobody talk bad about this, of what it's doing. I wish they'd have just told us this 3 years ago. It would have saved us a whole lot of problems and a lot of money, but appreciate y'all's work.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trevor, what are we implementing this in a month from now? Are we going to be tails and scales or?
Yeah, so we were rushing the timeline he talked about. We were simply trying to get this on the ground as fast as possible so we could relieve the burden of reporting every single trip as fast as possible. The setbacks and delays that he talked about, shutdowns, lack of response for a couple months, that kind of stuff kind of hindered it and put us into a timeline to essentially where we have to run tails and scales this year in order to be compliant with Amendment 50. And at the same time, we'll begin the process of transitioning the documentation of Amendment 50 over to match MS Krill and everything else. And at that point, it'll be what we monitor everything in, including red snapper. But as y'all can tell, that's a lot longer than the presentations we typically give. The reason for that is that this is basically establishing a new foundation for how we're going to manage recreational fisheries in the state of Mississippi. Every time something comes up, you're going to see products from here. So having that understanding and knowing all the work that's gone into it from the staff and everything else is going to be important as we continue to move forward with all the decisions we're going to have to make. All right, so these next two will be real quick. So this is just the final adoption portion of the fillet possession that we talked about. So we submitted per the administrative requirements. It was on the administrative bulletin. It appeared on the website and it appeared in the paper. We haven't received any public comments. As a reminder, this is the language. It just adds in that within or outside of Mississippi territorial waters for fillet possession, and then has all the float plan requirements there listed. And then all we need is just a motion to recommend final adoption. And what we'll do is get the paperwork together, submit it, and get it signed.
Great.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and the last thing I got for you, we got some saltwater finfish records. So I told you the snook was coming, so we got another common snook. The old record was 15.36 ounces. The new one is 5 pounds, 6.4 ounces, by Mr. Matthew Mitchell. There's a picture of the fish. There's a picture of Mr. Mitchell with the fish. He actually had another one in the cooler with him. So he caught 2 that day, both around the same size. So that's an indication of what we're seeing a little bit more of. Seems to be a good thing. Next one's yellowfin tuna. This one's been pretty long standing. The old record was 236 pounds, 9.6 ounces. The new record is 237 pounds, 12.8 ounces. Angler is Mr. Josh Lord. There's a picture of the fish and Mr. Lord with the fish. And that's a good one. And we got one youth conventional tackle. It's an African pompano. There is no youth record currently for African pompano, so it stands as a new record, 35 pounds, 10.4 ounces. Mr. George Bam Bam, and I'll tell you at 35 pounds, that was probably going to stand for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a picture of the fish. We see a few of these every year, and there's George with that fish. So with that, all we need is a motion to recommend the approval of new state records.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Trevor, appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Ronnie.
Miss Aisha, Grand Baynier.
Right. Good morning.
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 I just wanted to give you all an update on our 2026 Celebrate the Gulf. So we had our festival on April 11th. It was at, with Art in the Pass at War Memorial Park in Pass Christian. Sponsoring partners were the DEQ and Chevron, two different offices out of DEQ, and Chevron provided sponsor funds for it. We had 47 exhibitors. This is the biggest Celebrate the Gulf in terms of exhibitors that we've ever had. And on the north side of the park, we counted over 1,000 people. There were, we haven't gotten the counts from Art in the Past yet, but there were many more people in the park that day. So we ask all exhibitors to have hands-on activities for kids that teaches them something about the marine environment, and they all do this. And so it's a real fun, free event for families, and kids get to learn all kinds of things from fishing to how a coral polyp is put together to things about geology, and it's a really nice event, and smart too. So we have live animals, caricature artists, the photo booth, face painters. We do a poster contest every year, and we give away our posters. And we have lately, in the last several years, been hosting the Student Science Showcase, which is taking the winners from the regional science fair and having them present their project at Celebrate the Gulf on the main stage. And then they have cash awards for the winners of that. This year, DEQ had a new addition. It was Washed Up to Wow. So this is a fashion show that DEQ is sponsoring, where local high school students make fashion items out of marine debris collected on beaches. Val Alley was doing the presentations for that and said sustainability never goes out of style. So that was a fun addition that we had this year. And then it also gave the NEAR a chance to promote our art and nature workshops. We have an upcoming workshop in botanical watercolor with a guest artist, Penny Crawford. And so they were, she was there promoting the workshop, which we still have seats for if anyone is interested. That's all I have.
Thank you.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you for the update.
Thanks.
Well, I don't think we have any public comments.
I do have one other thing. Commissioner Mayfield, I think your daughters just won a big award, didn't
They won a huge award.
Would you explain that? We're going to have them here one day, but would you explain?
I'll be happy to. I've gotten very familiar with telling the story. I've got 8th grade daughters in Ocean Springs, Bowen and Taylor Mayfield. They had to do a science fair project this year for their class, and they chose oysters. The name of that project was The Oyster, a Filtration Sensation. And they did really well at school. They did well enough to get to the next round of regionals in Long Beach. Not much expectation other than the fact that we were excited to move to the next level. Or they were. Well, we all were. Well, they won at regionals. They got silver medal. They got a NOAA nod accomplishment, and they got a fancy foundation that gave them $100 saying they liked what they were doing. So they came away from regionals with, you didn't know it was going to be that wordy, were you? 3 awards. So they qualified for State Science Fair, which wasn't awesome this year because State Science Fair fell during their spring break. So for spring break, they got to go back to school if they chose. And we gave them that option. We said, if you want to take it to state, see what you can do, let's go for it. And they did. They chose to go up to Boonville, Mississippi, which was a absolute lovely place to visit. Super nice people up there. And they put their project out there. They won gold medal, first place in their division. They gave the final awards. They won Best in Show, Best in State of Mississippi, coming out of Ocean Springs, Mississippi. And we're tickled to death. So thank you.
Great.
Well, I know you're proud of them. We want to have them here. Maybe I didn't
May.
in May or either, something, and let them and just let everybody know what they've done.
They're excited.
All right, thank you.
That's a memory they'll have forever.
That's it.
Prior to closing, Commissioner Mayfield mentioned that we possibly do a moment of silence for Jim Franks, and I want to take him up on that. So if everybody wanted to bow in a moment of silence, please, for Dr. Jim Franks. All right, thank you. Rest in peace, sir. All right, do we have a motion to close?
Chairman, one question before we get out of here. I started getting some text messages about the new reef out there. What is our plan, Trevor? What is our plan on getting the information to the people once on what is state and what isn't? The text I just got is, how do they know if we don't know?
Yeah, so what we'll likely do, so we've got an unofficial 9-mile line that was expansion from the 3-mile line that was previously there. And what we'll try to do is identify the areas within those new reef zones that are being able to be accessed. Likely have something on the artificial reef site, I would imagine, Lieutenant Travis. So we'll make sure it's publicly available for those that are looking for it.
Okay, so we'll publish that once we get ready to release that new location.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Trevor.
And one other thing too is oyster season. I think Jason's already walked out, but Rick, maybe you can answer this. But oyster season right now is open until the end of this month, and then we're going to meet with the task force and look at something in additional to that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We typically close down on April 30th, but we do have a meeting with the task force tomorrow just to kind of get the feel for if they want to have a season in May or try it out. There's a lot of the time temperature matrix gets really tight during that window, so it's really difficult to manage that. But we're going to work with them and see what we can come up with.
We're at about
46,000 sacks.
46,000 sacks right now.
Great. Okay. Good deal. Anything else? Gentlemen? All right. We have a motion to close.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That was a good one today.
Yeah, man.
Long, but it was well deserved today. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. You too, Jim.